Here we go. Welcome to Podcast of the Beholder. I'm Bill. This is my good friend and co-host Chuck Hopkins. And this is the podcast totally about Metallica, all things, albums, anything we can think of, live era stuff, whatever. We're going to bring it to you because we love Metallica. How you doing, Chuck?
Man, I'm doing good today. How are you doing?
I'm awesome, man. I'm awesome.
It's a good day to talk Metallica, but when is it not a good day to talk Metallica?
Exactly. That's the way I look at it, man. Every day is good to talk about Metallica.
Right. There's a lot to talk about. This will be a fun venture moving forward and discussing all things known and maybe a few things unknown to people out there.
Exactly. One thing I wanted to say too, there'll probably be things that each of us will probably learn in this podcast that we didn't know, which is a great thing because if I can tell someone something that they don't know, or I could find out something I didn't know, it just makes our knowledge of Metallica even greater.
Right. And I know we've kind of stayed away from doing trivia and stuff like that so we can learn from each other as we go, but you'll see that I'm not a guy that remembers exactly what date everything comes out or whatever, but I'll put my love of the band up against anybody's.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that too.
So
awesome. So Chuck, you want to tell them what we're talking about today?
We are talking about the debut album. We figured now with this podcast we've decided not to go in order of the discography, but we figured how could you not start with one of the coolest debuts ever? And man, it's such a great album. So we're talking Kill 'Em All today. This is such a huge album. We might not get it all done in one part. We're going to see what we could do, and if it takes two parts, it does. We're not going to rush this one. So
nope.
And I'm 48. Bill, how old are you?
42. Be 43 this year.
42. Okay. So at what point, when was your introduction to Kill 'Em All? Do you remember the first time you heard it?
Oh man, I had to probably have been. Well, see, my founding out of Metallica come about the Justice era, because I remember seeing one on MTV, and then I sort of kind of got in Metallica about that time, and then around the Black Album era. But I was probably, I would have to say, probably about my early teens, maybe about 14, 15, when I discovered Kill 'Em All.
Okay. I had a cousin who, my mother was very anti-metal, so at a young age when I was really getting into it, she wasn't one to say, yes, I'll go buy you the new Kiss or Wasp. She was horrified by the way some of these bands that I liked listening to, the way they looked. And I had a cousin who got a lot of metal, and he had the first two albums, and this is in the back in the days of cassette, even before the double disc ones, where you had to basically put a cassette player in front of another one. So I remember having a 90-minute cassette with Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning, one on one side, one on the other. And man, I mean, it was horrible sounding as far as quality. I think there was even a couple of drops where somebody came in and said, turn it down. But I mean, that was my introduction to Metallica. So it was before Puppets came out. I was listening to them. And then that's about the time when I was going to say in high school, then when Puppets came, those Puppet shirts were everywhere. And I was like, there was a buzz about Puppets. some of the older kids in school, I'd be like, Puppet's good. They're like, dude. I mean, in '86, everybody knew how huge that record was, but kind of that's when my curiosity really peaked, was around '86. So that's when just the shirts were everywhere. So sorry about that.
Oh no, you're good. I was saying that my brother. What got me really into metal was my brother. My older brother. He listened to a lot of, metal, but he listened to a lot more of the. I guess you want to call it glam metal, uh, hair bands, whatever. But he did listen to some harder stuff, and Metallica was one of them. And so I sort of got my roots into listening to Metallica from him and a couple of my cousins and everything, because they would watch MTV like all the time and stuff. So it was like that's where I got it. And then I had a couple of friends of mine that were huge into metal, and I remember a friend of mine had actually bought Kill 'Em All on cassette. And for some odd reason, he was like, "Yeah, this just don't work for me." I guess he was more into the more, I guess you want to call it like glam metal or whatever it was, and Metallica was just a little bit too
Cinderella,
hard
Rat,
for him.
stuff
So
like that.
yeah, yep. So um, he gave me Kill 'Em All the cassette, and man, I played that cassette like. I mean, I know the first copy of it I had to at least wore out. You know, it just got to the point to where it just wouldn't play no more. And
Sure.
I so and then one time I left it on the dashboard of my car and it melted, and I was like, damn. So I had to go out and buy another one, but shit happens when
Right.
you're 15, 16, 17 years old.
And sometimes the tape players back then would just eat them for no reason. You'd put them in and play it, and then you'd pull it out, and you get a pencil. Remember the days of getting a pencil and kind of
Mm-hmm.
rethreading it?
Yep.
Yeah, I've done that. Done that many a time.
And I remember used to back in the day too. If you could, if you were good, if a tape broke, you could actually put a little piece of Scotch tape on it and put it back together. And even though it would play, when it come to that little spot, it would like
It
you
would
wouldn't hear nothing,
glitch
but then it
then.
would keep. Yeah, yep,
I never did that, but I'm sure it would work.
yeah, it worked. I actually did that one time. So you know, hey, sometimes you gotta do what
It's
you gotta
funny,
do.
right? That's funny. I hadn't thought about cassettes in a while until you showed me your one earlier. And
Yep. And I have a cassette here of one of the songs we'll be talking about, "Jump in the Fire" here, but wish I had my Kill 'Em All, but over the years from moving so many times, it got lost somewhere.
that happens sometimes. I know that I've probably there's certain albums that I know I've bought on cassette album and vinyl, and they've either broke or just deteriorated. So it's like, yeah, I've probably bought that 5 times.
Oh yeah.
So we kind of talked about our introduction to Kill 'Em All. What do you think about the artwork to this?
You know,
Oh,
I love it, man. To be honest with you, it's almost like, what's funny? It's almost like a mystery, because you got the sledgehammer, you got the hand, the shadow of a hand, and then you got the blood, and it's almost like something that would be a cover of like a horror movie or a novel or something, almost kind of.
right. Yeah, it could be. Or like Triple H Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
um, I think the color with the blood being in red and the words "Kill 'Em All" and the Metallica emblem being in red, it just looks so sweet. I
It
mean,
does.
it just so lends itself out to the red vinyl, which I know that with the Walmart deal that you picked up. I haven't been able to find one, but just overall just a very Very cool. Is yours open? Is yours
Yeah,
open or?
yeah. It's called the Jump in the Fire Engine Red Vinyl. I'll show it
I
real
want to
quick.
see. I want to see that. I've seen pictures of it online, but
You may not get a real good look at it, but it's
that's so
kind of
sweet.
dark, but it's actually fairly nice.
Nice. Now, um, media wise, how do you find yourself listening to music? Are you a record guy, CD? I mean, are you all the above, or are you a Spotify, or how do you listen to most of your music?
Most of my music I listen to vinyl, but um, it depends. Like I say, because now I bought a brand new car, and I don't have a CD player or anything in it, so now I use my phone or whatever and play MP3s through it. I mean, I
Okay.
embrace the digital world, but it's not my thing. If I could listen, I'd rather listen to a CD or a vinyl any day of the week or a cassette. You know, that's just
Okay.
my thing.
I
And
I still have a few. My car's a few years older, so it's got a CD player in it. So I do CDs in car, vinyl at home, and then I still play CDs at home still sometimes, but I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it's so easy just to put the headphones on, and I have Spotify Premium, every album in the world's right there,
yeah,
sometimes it's easier on the couch and just, pull up Kill 'Em All than to go put the CD on.
yeah,
So like you said, I embrace all three of them.
yeah,
And, sometimes I just want to sit down and just listen to a record. And sometimes I have my maidens where I don't want to listen to a live record because I don't want to flip the album every two songs, you know
yeah,
and we'll talk about kind of media as the thing goes on. I was just curious to see how you listen to yours.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I like it as loud as I can get it. So
Mhm.
I like my headphones, and Spotify does me good sometimes, but there's nothing like a good record day too.
I know, right?
So, and I mean, goodness, back then in the 80s, I used to read. Did you ever read any metal books? I used to read one called Metal Edge,
Yeah,
and I'd get
uh,
that, and it'd have suggestions, or I'd see one-page ads of like, if you like this band and this band, check this out, and I'd be like, ooh, you
yeah,
know. I mean, things were so different back then. You'd watch Headbangers Ball on Saturday to hear a new band, but now,
exactly.
somebody said, "Hey, here's a song that I just recorded yesterday. Here it is."
Yeah. Oh
It's
yeah.
so I love that part of technology for sure. So,
But one thing I wanted to ask you before we actually get into the review here, is like, do you find yourself today? You know, the older we get, I find myself not as I don't know that because with social media things get spoiled now, but sometimes I just don't find myself excited about a release like you used to. Like I remember like you would hear like one song on the radio and they would be like, "Oh, Metallica's coming out with a new album, say September such and such or whatever." And you're like, "Man, I can't wait to hear that." And a lot of times they would only play the single like maybe just a couple months right before the album would come out, and they would only release like one song, and you only had that one song. So when that album came out, you ran to the record store, and you would pray to God that your record store got enough of copies. So when you got there, you got one, and you pick it up and you look at it, and you're like, yeah, I've got it. And now it's like sometimes it's kind of like I'm excited that I get it, but it's almost like I don't know. Sometimes I feel like social media and stuff kind of just takes the excitement out of it.
um, that's a good point. I find, and we're recording this on what's today's date? Thursday the 2nd of
Yep,
September. Tomorrow is the release of Maiden.
yep,
Senjutsu, I think is the pronunciation. And I had to order it off of Amazon because I don't have any CD stores around me that I trust. I mean, Target and Walmart and Best Buy, what they get is so minuscule in the stores. Like I used to love going to record stores on, it used to be on Tuesdays and they switched it to Fridays.
Yep.
But there was something about flipping through physically and, finding the music, and it was an event. So I hate that aspect of it is taken away. That, Iron Maiden's huge and I don't trust a record store or anything having it tomorrow. So I had to order it.
Yep.
But as far as the excitement of it, I'm going to disagree because I think I'm more excited about it because there hasn't been, with COVID and stuff, there hasn't been as many huge releases. So to me, this is blockbuster huge. So I'm like giddy excited. I'm going to be asking my wife tomorrow several times, did it come? Did it come?
Yeah.
So I think now one thing that I find myself not doing is like it's easy to release digital songs now. I used to love cassette singles and CD singles. I love buying physical media.
Yeah.
But
Me
now,
too.
they'll release the single, maybe sometimes 2 before the album comes out, and they just show up on Spotify. Now, I try to stay away from too much of that because I don't want to have half of the album listened to before I even get it.
Yeah.
So, like, I remember, gosh, which Metallica album was leaked a little bit? Not Hardwired. Um, which there was one that was a lot of it was leaked, and I stayed away from it just because I didn't want to hear it until the album came out on the release date.
Well, I know they did. I know they did some. I know they, released a couple, like 2 or 3 tracks of Hardwired before it came out. I know they released. It was Hardwired and Moth in the Flame. I think those were the 2 tracks you got before the album came out.
Right.
And then I think they did that same thing with Death Magnetic too, but don't hold me to that.
I think Death Magnetic, some of it got leaked.
Yeah.
And if somebody remembers, comment on that. But I think it got leaked, but I was pretty good about staying away from it. So I wanted to wait.
Yeah.
So it's one of those musical debates. There's some great things that I love about it. I love how easily. I mean, I remember I used to have to go to a record store and I'd be like, "Hey, have you heard anything about Kiss having a new album out?" Or you hope they see news in a magazine or something. But now with social media and just the internet and stuff, it's like they're in the studio. It's going to be here around Christmas. It's that part I love, but
Yeah.
I hate the lack of people buying physical media and how hard it is to get it and how it's just being pushed away these days.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the
Um.
bigger bands will still do the CD and vinyl packages, pre-orders and stuff, but I hate just not going to a record store and seeing 15 Aussies and, all the Sabbath and most of Kiss and,
Yeah.
I miss those days.
Oh yeah. Well,
So
I just wanted to say I'm stoked about. Don't get me wrong. I'm stoked about the release of Senjutsu by Maiden and for the Metallica box set coming up here in next week.
right.
But
Next Friday.
next Friday, yeah. The only problem is now, like when I lived in New York, for the time that I lived in New York, I actually had a record store right in Syracuse I could go to called the Soundgarden, and they sold all kind of stuff there and vinyl CDs. Once in a while, you could even get cassettes if like people traded them in or something, and they
Right.
had movies and other stuff. But now I found myself getting excited when I would go there and be able to flip through and find stuff and stuff like that. But now that I really don't have a record store near me that I can do that, it's sort of kind of like I have to order everything online, or hope to God that Walmart gets it. And
Right.
speaking of one more thing, like you said, I don't trust Walmart either, even though Walmart has an exclusive for the Iron Maiden release. So
But they had one for the live. What's the last live one that came out? The one in
uh
Mexico.
yeah, you had to ask me.
Anyway,
Yep.
it's got a long title, but I thought for sure with them having an exclusive on that I'd be able to pick up the vinyl in store, but I never once saw it, CD or
Yeah.
vinyl.
Yeah.
So sorry about the Maiden tangent, but other
No.
bands are going to come up. Other bands are going to come up.
Oh yes.
So yeah, so it kind of sucks that physical media, you have to order most of it online. At least the bands I like.
Oh yeah.
There's some decent used record stores here in Cincinnati, but they just don't. I mean, you're not going to find the music that I like, you know. So no, there's no $5 bin of metal records. That does not exist.
Nope.
And if it does, it doesn't last long.
No.
And no, Jethro Tull is not metal. And we'll
I
discuss
know.
that one down the line.
Yes, we will.
Jethro
That'll
Tull is
be
not
interesting.
metal.
I know, right?
Right. So back to Kill 'Em All.
Yep.
This was released July 25th in '83.
Yep.
Do you ever use Discogs?
Once in a while.
Okay. If you ever, I mean, this thing has probably been re-released many times throughout the years as far as remasters or just reissues. Discogs is very good about having different pressings and stuff. Now, I'm not one of those guys that wants to get every pressing. If I've got
Yeah.
a good copy of an album, I'm cool with it. Unless there's like extra tracks or maybe different artwork. I don't need to have the '83 version of Kill 'Em All and the '86 and the '89. That's
Yeah.
just me. I've seen people that's got probably 150 Kill 'Em Alls on vinyl. That's great. That makes it harder for everybody else to find them, but that's great.
Yeah.
But so there's been many reissues of this, but the original release date was July 25th of '83.
Yep.
And boy, did it. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I just want to say they did do a re-release of it. I don't know if they did a vinyl version, but they did have a CD version, and I had it at one time. And like I said, with over the years of moving, it got lost somewhere. But they did a version that had "Am I Evil" and "Blitzkrieg" on it. It was an Elektra
I was going
reissue,
to talk
and
about
that
that.
was from '88 and '91. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I mean it because my first ever CD copy of that had Blitzkrieg and Am I Evil, and they flow so well with that album. If as a young kid you don't say, "Is that a cover?" I was just like, "That's a Metallica song. That's great. I love
Yeah.
Am I Evil."
Yep.
So a lot of people forget that was on there, and I still associate the two with that album
Yep.
because for the longest time growing up, that's how I heard it.
You want to know what's funny? I think that was my first CD version of Kill 'Em All too.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I wish I would. It's one of those that we talked about that kind of bit the dust, but I wish I still had it. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you when we get to Garage Days. That's Garage Days. What a way to save on. Everybody had to buy all those CD singles, and what a collection to put all those great songs together. So,
I know, right?
but I'm going to show you this little interesting CD here. I have. This one's called Live Metal Up Your Ass, and this was recorded in November of '82.
Oh wow.
And that's in San Francisco, and that's got Dave on there, and It is. It's still. It's Ron McGovney. So this is even before Cliff.
Yeah.
So I know there was Cliff came in with Dave too, but if you see some of that earlier stuff with Dave on there, is so brutally raw. Just, I mean, they were so different than, and we kind of touch on the glam. You know, at about the time Poison and Rat and Cinderella, which I like those guys, but you got those guys on one side of metal, and then you got these guys, and it's just like they're waving a totally different flag.
I know, right?
So yeah, this is kind of a cool, and they play basically the whole album. And My Evil's on there too.
Nice.
And so
I have to have.
Go ahead,
I have
buddy.
to ask you a question though. On that version, does it have? Is it mechanics or is it the Four Horsemen?
It says the mechanics, and it's been so long, I'm not sure of the mixture. Like, is it all mechanics, or like I'll have to get back on part 2 of that. It's been a
Okay.
while since I've heard it. I remember
All right.
I listened to it the day I got it. This is about a year ago, and I don't
Okay.
remember what version that is on there. But it's billed as the mechanics.
Yeah. And just to throw another tidbit of that on there. Now, if you listen to Megadeth's version of the mechanics, it's a little bit different from actually the version that's on No Life to Leather. The version of mechanics on No Life to Leather sounds a lot more like the Four Horsemen than it does the Megadeth version, though. Even though you can still hear the same rhythm part going in up under the basic that that basic riff there, you can hear that in the mechanic song.
So, do you have a favorite of the two? Do you prefer the mechanics or the Four Horsemen?
Oh my god. If I had to choose, if I was on a desert island and I had to choose between the Four Horsemen and the mechanics, I would pick the Four Horsemen. But that doesn't not that the mechanics is not a great song. It is. It's just that if you take where like the mechanics is like 3 minutes and something, maybe close to 4. I mean, that song there is over 7 minutes. The Four Horsemen.
708. I'm going to look that up.
I think it's like 702.
Mine says 708.
70. Okay, I was close.
Yeah, very close. Now, see,
Yep.
I pick. See, I don't see a runtime on this. YouTube shows it around 424.
Okay.
I would pick the Four Horsemen, but I would love to hear James sing the mechanics. To me, James's vocals 98% of the times is better than Dave. I think there's some songs that Dave does that James couldn't do as good.
Yeah.
But I think pound for pound, James is just a stronger vocalist. So I would love to hear James do the mechanics. That'd be awesome. Yeah, I mean, as far as the Megadeth version.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
That actually is, well, it pretty much is. The lyrics and everything are the same. It's just the music's just a tiny bit different.
Yeah. Now we've talked about Dave a little bit. Dave was in the fold before the release of this album.
Yep.
Now McCovney had nothing to do with any of it, did he?
Actually, McGovney's on the demo.
Okay, so does he have any songwriting credits at all, or no?
No. He
okay. Now, is he on No Life to Leather?
Wait a minute, hold on. Give me just a second. Look at my notes here. I know he was on the demo, but I don't think he got any writing credits because I've never seen his name on anything other than just being in the band, as
Okay.
far as I know.
Yeah, I'm looking at the lyric sheet here, and there's no mention of him at all.
Yeah.
So you had Ron McGovney come in and out, and then you had Dave, who had 4 writing credits to this
Yep.
one,
Mm-hmm.
and that's Four Horsemen, Jump in the Fire, Phantom Lord, and Metal Militia.
Yep.
And does he have 1 or 2 off Ride the Lightning?
2. I think it's either the first or the second track, and I think Call It to Cthulhu, I think.
I think he has credits for Ride the Lightning and Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Because I remember somebody saying something about an S&M, and Dave was talking about how much money he made from that because Cthulhu's on that.
Yeah.
So, but Dave, a huge part of the band before the release, 4 writing credits. I've heard a lot of hearsay stories that Dave told him not to use any of his riffs.
Yeah.
But I'm sure financially now he's glad they did.
Yeah.
And he made it to 4, and one of them is my favorite song on the album. So, I mean, if you're a Megadeth fan, and I am, and I know you are, you know, Dave knows how to write stuff. He knows how to write good riffs.
Oh yeah.
And so you know, I'm sure we'll eventually talk about Megadeth. Maybe do a special Dave episode down the line. But
Nice. Yep.
so Dave was in, Cliff was in, and then everybody's heard the stories about them going to New York and kicking Dave out and sending him on a bus, and then enter Kirk Hammett, and then the 4 was there, and then they put out this outstanding album that we're talking about today.
Yep.
No, I think the album was. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying I just wanted to say that I think Dave had a lot more, even though he was kicked out of the band before they actually recorded the album. I think he had a lot more influence on this album than people give him credit to because of the riffs and the sound and just the way the album sounds. Because if you think about it, Kirk Hammett at the time, I mean, comes in, he has no writing credits on the first album. Okay,
right.
basically, most of the music was written except for, I mean, you know, he basically came in and did solos and stuff like that for most of the songs and stuff. I mean, you had what was it, Whiplash, Seek and Destroy, I think. No, I meant, what was it? Whiplash, Jumping, Anesthesia, and you might as well say No Remorse were the songs that were written that wasn't on No Life to Leather. So I mean, and as far as I know, he don't have any writing credits for the first album. So I'd have to think that all those songs were written even after Dave had left, and he just came in as like a studio.
Just came in and just.
Yeah.
So. Okay, so that brings us to. We've kind of talked about our history, the history of the album a little bit. Track 1, Hit the Lights.
Mm-hmm.
What an album opener. I think it's just, I mean, I love the way they, you know, the guitars go, and then, you know, they kind of build to that first riff, and then, Jesus, when that first thing goes, I mean, if you're hearing Metallica for the first time on Hit the Lights, is what a great song to hear in 1983. And No Life to Leather is how it starts out, and just an outstanding song that was brought back a few years ago live, and it totally holds up and sounds amazing live to this day. What are your thoughts on Hit the Lights?
Well, here's the funny thing about it. I never really gave. I heard it over the years, and it was a song that I liked, but I never really sort of kind of just always, because the Four Horsemen was my favorite song. It was like one of those songs I skipped over. And it's not that it's not a good song. It's just I never really okay, I'm just going. Most of the time, I just play from there back. And it happened to be, I think it was on the Big Four tour that they did. I bought the box set and everything, and I watched it. And something when they played "Hit the Lights" on there, it was just something they did. I don't know what it was, and it just clicked with me. I was like, dude, this fucking song is killer live. You know what I'm saying? It's like just. I don't know if they played it faster than they've ever played it or something or whatever, but man, they were just like, and I had like a whole new respect for the song, and I was like, and from that day on, it's like one of my songs that's in my playlist. When I make a playlist of Metallica, no matter what it is, it's like one of the songs that's in there, and I was like, man, I don't know. I guess I was just kind of blind to it for years, I guess.
Now, did you buy? You say you bought the Big Four. Do you have the version that also has the CDs?
Yes.
Wow, that's an expensive version. I've been trying to find a decent price version of that, and they're hard to find those under 100 these days.
Yeah, I bought mine when I was living in New York when I got mine, and I think I wanted to say I got it at where was I got it? There was it was either I think it was an FYE somewhere, and it might have been in the Syracuse Mall, and they had one copy left, and I grabbed it because it comes with the CD, the DVD, everything. So it was so yeah, I grabbed it, man, and I was like, and then years later when they brought the Blu-ray out, I grabbed that too. So,
do you remember how much you paid for the deluxe box, or?
I wanted to say it was about $70 then, I think.
Okay,
but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's holding. I mean, you can get like you said, the DVD or the Blu-ray, just the standard versions all day for 20 and under, but to find the CD version, that's hard to find.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, a lot of these songs have hit the live rotation. There's not like some albums where they've only played these two songs of this album live and that's it. I mean,
yeah,
a lot of these have made appearances over the years for sure.
Yep.
So, Hit the Lights, what an outstanding track.
Oh, yeah.
I heard you mention it. Track 2 is also the highlight of the album for me. Four Horsemen is my favorite song on this album. I love the riff. I love the length of it. I love the tempo change. Some people call it the Leonard Skinner breakdown in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I love it, and it's I've never heard this song and like, oh man, that song again. There's no fatigue on this one. Every time I hear it, it's brand new.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, I've heard shorter versions. I've heard it acoustic. I've heard it where they've cut parts of the Skinner middle, and however they chop it up, it's all good.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So, Four Horsemen. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh man, I love this song, and like I said, man, the first time I heard that song just come out of my speakers, I was just blown away, man, and I was like, oh my god! And then you stand there, man, and you listen to some of the solos on this song, and I'm gonna be honest with you, man, I think some of the solos on that song were ahead of its time. I mean, if you listen to, especially that long solo at the very end of the song or whatever, after they do that final verse. I'm standing there, and I still just sometimes stand here and I can't believe it, man. Just it was almost like those solos were like years ahead of their time, and it was just, and I was like, damn, man, and it just blows me away. And speaking of a live version, like you said, whether they played the whole version or cut the middle out, a lot of times I had never heard them play the live version or the full version live until a few years ago when they were doing when Metallica was having their own festival there for a couple years, and when right after that movie through the Never came out, they had that guy in there that played in the movie, that Dane DeHaan or whatever his name was. Anyway,
Right.
they came out. They actually played twice the second festival. They came out as a band called DeHaan or whatever, and they played the whole Kill 'Em All album live. And yeah, and they played the full version of Kill 'Em All, the Four Horsemen on there. I know I've got to get that.
I actually bought this on the Metallica website, and
Yep.
that's so cool that they sell their own bootlegs there. I mean,
Yep.
fair price. I wish it was a jewel case and not a
Yeah.
the slim case, but I got bags, so I protect them.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, I was going to bring this up. This was recorded June 8th, 2013. So
Man,
this was celebrating the was it 30th year?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is almost right under 30 years of that, but outstanding. And James's vocals has aged so well.
Yeah.
Unlike some of my favorites, he sounds amazing. His voice is so young on this album, and there's nobody that's not going to mature and sound different than they did 30 years ago. No one.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. So, and have you watched the? You've seen Cunning Stunts, right?
Yes.
There's a Kill Ride medley where they play Four Horsemen, and it's really slow and crunchy. I mean, it's almost like half the speed. I dig that version too.
Yeah. It's actually been a little while since I've seen that, and I got to break that out and watch that again because it's been a few years. But
as a load reload fan, I like Cunning Stunts.
yeah.
And I thought the set list then was good, but the Kill Ride medley with Four Horsemen in there, it's just so slow and just it's crunchy as shit. I dig it. Now, you've seen the San Diego version. You have Live Shit Binge and Purge, right?
Yes, I do. Yep.
Okay. I love Four Horsemen from San Diego where Lars is on the one kit, and then there's that riff where it's just a guitar, and he gets up and runs across the stage, and then sets down right as it comes. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Whenever I think of Four Horsemen, or whenever I hear it on the radio or whatever, I can't help but vision. That was such a cool effect when they did that.
Oh yeah, no doubt, man. It's telling you.
But Four Horsemen is almost a Mount Rushmore song for me.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly believe, and the funny thing about it is, man, it doesn't get talked about as much like, say Whiplash or Seek and Destroy or, some of those songs hit the lights like that. But I think, to me, it's a song that I don't think you could have a playlist and not have it in there. It's just, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah. And I'm sure when they do the set list, there's they consider fatigue and Metallica, and I like a lot of different bands, and one of my favorites is Kiss, and they're horrible for not changing up the set list. And Metallica has always been really good. I mean, you're always going to hear One, and you're always going to hear Enter Sandman, which is fine, but that 30%, you don't have to do a different set every night, but they're very good about changing out that 30-40%, that's not standards, that doesn't get you bored with it.
Yep.
And it helps when you have new material that people want to hear.
Yep.
Some bands will put out a new album. You're like, I don't want it. It's not very good. I just want to hear the classic. First 3 albums, please.
Yep.
But when Metallica comes out with, and Maiden's really good for that too. It's
Yep.
like five songs off the new album. Sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I go see Kiss on the Monster tour. I don't want to hear any songs off Monster. I want the classics.
Yeah.
So we're very lucky to have a band that when they do put out new material, it's great and you want to hear it.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that's sorry, tangent there.
Good, man.
Motor Breath. I'll let you talk about this one first.
Motor Breath is just, it's one of those unique songs in itself, man, and it's just it just grooves along, man, and it's just one of those songs that just, you find yourself like, I sit there sometimes and I'm like, it's like one of the most underrated songs on the album for me. And it's not that it's a bad song, it's just it's almost, because you've got like all these great songs on there, and Motor Breath is great too. But it just kind of like, it kind of sits there, and it's like, you think about it. You start out with Wonderful Hit the Lights, and then you really go into, I'm talking about just a balls out slamming metal, the Four Horsemen, and then here comes the song Motor Breath, that's sort of kind of a little bit slower, but it's crunchy, and it's, it just grooves along, man, and it's like, I love it, man. I don't know what all to say about it. It's killer.
Motor Breath is a cool tune for me. And here's a spoiler. There's not a bad song on this album, and we're not going to hit a bad song until several albums down for me.
Yeah.
But I really dig this one. This is one of the songs where I actually like the live version better. You know, I like the part where I can't take it any other way. And then James like, hey, 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 hey. So I really like the energy of the live version.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm a full album guy, so I usually don't just say I'm going to listen to this song off this album. I'll listen to the whole album usually. So, but if I want to hear Motor Breath just randomly, I'll go to a live version. So, I love it. I mean, the studio track's very good. It's one of those to me that sounds better live.
Yeah.
But great track for sure.
Awesome.
Jump in the Fire.
Yep.
This is yes.
Yep.
And at the end of the episode, we'll show our box sets, and there's a vinyl picture disc of that on there too.
Yeah. Yep.
Jump in the Fire is a good track. I think if it would have been just an average debut album, it would have shined a lot more, but it's surrounded by so many gems that it gets overshadowed. Like, I mean, it's a solid track. It's one of those to me that shows off the James youth. You hear the youth in his voice a lot on this one for me.
Yeah.
But the guitar on it sounds great. Simple chorus, but love it. It's catchy.
Yep.
Great guitars on it. I like it. But like I said, it's just surrounded by so many classics that I think it gets overlooked.
Oh yeah.
So that's Jump in the Fire for me.
I feel the same way about the track, and I love James's vocals on this song, man. And it just, when it comes into it, and he's like, down in the depths of my fiery home, summons bell will chime. And then that one part when he goes, jump in the fire, and how he does that, man, and it's just like that, it's just one of those songs, man. It's just so catchy, and the way he sings it, it's just, you can't not listen to it. It's just, and like you said, I agree with you. If this would have been like a mediocre debut album, it would have probably been one of the standout tracks. But because almost it almost kind of feels to me, and it's not has nothing to do with the song. It's just how great the album is. It almost kind of like it feels like it's almost like out of place in a way. Like it just feels like maybe maybe you don't feel the same way, but I just kind of feel like it's kind of like the black sheep of the album, kind of.
Well, I'll describe it as this: there's album filler that's garbage.
Yeah,
Like I'm not going to sing out any bands, but you're like, okay, I like these 3 hits, and the other 7 are filler. This is
yeah,
kind of Metallica filler, but Metallica filler is on such a higher level than most bands
yeah,
that it's solid and it's very catchy, but it's just, I mean, if you got 10 songs on an album, something's got to be 9 or 10. And, for me, this is one of the weaker tracks. I still, by no means do I skip it at all.
yeah,
And if I was at the next show and, I hear that, I'd be like, fuck yes. I've never heard this live. That'd be awesome. But it's one of the weaker tracks, if you could say that. I'm not saying it's a weak track by any means. It's just it's surrounded by so many monsters that it gets overlooked.
yep. Hold on just
So,
1 second. I'm getting a call. Sorry about that.
oh, you're good.
Hello. Huh?
So, jump in the fire.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Cool. Uh huh. Oh, okay. Cool. No, I didn't know. All right. Bye. Sorry about that.
You're all right. Okay, the next track, huge, Whiplash.
Oh no. Anesthesia.
Well, huh?
I
Oh, you
think.
know what? I'm looking at my lyric sheet here, and there's no. It went straight to Whiplash. You're
Yeah.
right, anesthesia. I was looking at the lyric sheet, and
Yeah.
it went straight to Whiplash. Okay, so anesthesia,
Yep.
bass solo take 1.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that, and God, I've heard so many interviews and stuff about it. That bass solo take 1, it was literally done in 1 take. I mean, that's exactly what they said. They were like, bass solo take 1, because sometimes it takes dozens to get what they want, and he just did it in 1.
Yeah.
Um, it's what a cool track. To me, it's one of those. It's cool to see on Cliff 'Em All. I mean, it's for some reason I enjoy that track visually more, just because
Yeah.
I mean, just the hair going and the bell bottoms. I mean, he was just a beast. And bands and metal just didn't put a random bass solo in and have it work.
Yeah.
I mean, they were used in concerts, but I mean, there's parts of that song that sounds like guitar. It's just played
Yeah.
so, you know. And oh my God, when we get to S&M2, the version of that, I'm not going to give it away, but that was just amazing.
Yeah.
So I thought it was very classy the way they did it without, you know, rock it. They just had that other guy play tribute to it, and Lars played with him. But I think it's a
Yep.
very cool track. It's very rarely do I, wake up in the morning and say, "Man, I want to hear Anesthesia." But it's a very cool track.
It is.
And if you haven't seen Cliff 'Em All, it's fantastic on there.
Oh yeah. I've,
So
I've seen it a
that's my
few
thoughts
times.
on Anesthesia.
Yeah, I just think, and I agree with you, man. Like back in those days, man, bass solos were just nothing to be heard of. I mean, like you said, except for maybe playing live, and But the thing about Cliff Burton, man, he was just a bass player that was out there just on his own, man. He was just, I don't know, I'd have maybe somebody would shoot me for saying this, but he might be the greatest bass player of all time. I mean, he was just a killer bass player, and he had a different bass sound than most people did, and it almost sounded like playing guitar at sometimes. And when you hear that anesthesia pulling teeth, man, and you're sitting there and you're just like blown away at how he sounds and the playing on that, man. It's just, when you look at bands, you don't really think of. I mean, the bass player is visual when you see them live and everything, but on a lot of albums, you don't really hear that bass a whole lot. And what I love about this is, man, it's just right there, raw, right in your face, and it's just like, hey, I'm gonna melt your face with bass. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
just, you know, man, what can you say? I mean, there's nothing you can say about it other than it's just probably another highlight on the album. And its thing is, it's a instrumental.
Yeah. For me, there's two rock and roll what ifs, and that's what would have happened and what would Bon Scott have done if he wouldn't have died, and like some of the direction that he was going with his writing on puppets. I mean, where would they have been if he would have stayed?
Yeah,
I mean, we'll never know. But when the Black Album came and it was time to cut their hair,
yeah,
I would have loved to have seen how all that would have played out. I mean, I know that
yeah,
he had a classical background, so I mean, some of that the more S&M would have probably still happened just the same. But
yeah,
he was such a good writer with some of the melodies and stuff that we'll never know what we missed out on. I mean, they're fantastic now. I mean, but
yeah,
what could they have been if that bus wreck wouldn't have happened?
yeah,
So, and I love Jason and Rob, but man, he was this kind of a nugget of how special he was,
yeah,
and it's sad we only got him for 3 albums.
yeah.
So, and we're gonna cover one more. We're gonna try to keep this close to the hour mark. Whiplash,
Yep.
man, what a cool track. It's so fast, and it's I'm not a mosh pit guy, but it makes you almost want to just dance around in a circle. I mean, it's so brutal. Um, and I tell you, I love the Jason versions where he goes back and forth from the Black Album. Have you ever heard Jason sing on this?
Uh, I think I have actually.
Yeah, he's right around that time he started doing, I think some on the even on the Justice tour,
Yeah,
but Jason adds a new level of just, I mean, heaviness to it, and what an outstanding song. I mean, to hear it, and it's not even my favorite of the album, shows you the strength of the album. What's your thoughts of
yep.
Whiplash?
But I'm gonna tell you, it's funny. Whiplash. It's one of those songs that they play live a lot, and on the I think it's off. It's the Seattle show on the live and off the live
Live
set
shit?
Danger Urge,
Yep.
right? They play Whiplash in that faster than they've ever played it. I mean, when you hear that, man, it's like you're starting to like, oh my god. I mean, they almost turned into like a speed metal band when they played that. And the funny thing about it is, if you listen to if you've got the Injustice for All box set, you know they actually put that Seattle show
On
on the
vinyl.
vinyl in that show in that vinyl, because I think that's the only time it's ever been released as far as like actual audio, because the show's on the live set Binge and Purge. It's just a DVD version of it. And
there's
so
if you follow eBay like I do, there are several bootlegs circulating of that Seattle show, and they're actually pretty decent quality. So if you're a CD collector, but I mean, I agree that's one of my favorite concerts of all time. Seattle Justice era is just amazing, and I was so lucky and so happy when I seen that they were putting that on there. I was just ecstatic.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So yeah, Whiplash it's aged so well, like we've said about some of these other songs on here. It's been a staple in and out of the set list since forever. Still sounds amazing. James still kills it. Aged very well for me. And if you haven't heard it and you're listening to this, go check out Whiplash on the Black Era. And Jason is so cool to hear him sing on that. So So we've covered side one of this masterpiece, and we're going to try to keep these at around an hour so that we don't lose people, and that gives us more time to talk about it next time. But next time we're going to talk about side two if you're looking at records, and then we're going to go into this heavy mamma jamma a little bit too.
Oh yeah.
As a Metallica fan, how lucky are we to have these?
I mean, right?
I love bootlegs, and for them to say, you know what, here's some DVD bootlegs, here's some audio CDs, and a vinyl. Have a vinyl show from every tour is going to be so freaking awesome.
Yeah. The only thing I'm disappointed in that set with, there's just not enough of content in it. Like, it's smaller compared to all the other box sets, as far as how much is in it,
Well, time frame wise, in '83 they just weren't recording everything like they were.
Yeah.
I mean, Black Album, they could have made that a $600 set if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as technology got better, I mean, even the DVD, is it Chicago?
I think. Yeah.
I think it's Chicago, but the first 3 or 4 songs don't even have audio. It's just video only.
Yep. Because
so, I mean, but it's the best thing that's out there for that Kill 'Em All tour. Now, obviously, every tour got better as far as what they had.
Yeah.
But so yeah, we got some cool stuff to talk about. Episode 2. Please, in the comments, if we've said something wrong and you're like, that wasn't 83, that was 82, tell us. I'm not offended. Correct me if you think that Phantom Lord is the best song on the album. Tell us your favorite song off the album.
Exactly.
And leave comments, hit like, hit subscribe. Check us out. We got some cool content coming up. Hopefully, I know there's a couple other Metallica podcasts out there. I listen to them.
Yep.
So hopefully we'll be a different take, and and go to our Facebook page. It's under the same name, and Podcast of the Beholder. Show pictures, video clips, whatever you want to on there. I might get on there tonight and put that Jason Whiplash clip on there just to generate people talking. But feel free to leave comments and let us know what you're thinking. And if you have a suggestion saying, hey, I want the next album review to be whatever, throw it in there. We'll see what we can do.
Yep. Exactly.
So,
we're open. We have an open door to whatever, whatever people want to hear. We'll do our best to bring it to you. And like I said, our knowledge is, I try to say that my knowledge is pretty good of Metallica, but like I said, there's things I don't know. And, so unless, so if we get something wrong, don't be afraid to say, hey, that was 85 or something like that. We're cool with that, man, because hey, like I said, the more we can find out and the more we know, the bigger fans and the more knowledgeable we become of one of our favorite bands. So,
Right. I did a Iced Earth podcast, and we used to have this guy who was he would leave us a dictionary, and he's like, well, on this, and I loved it. I was never offended. I was like,
yeah.
I learned 3 things from reading that. So, if we missed something or we forgot to mention something, by all means, leave a message. We'd be glad to talk about it.
Exactly.
So that was a lot of fun, Bill. I enjoyed chatting with you. I look forward to part 2, buddy.
Oh yeah, part 2. Yep. Be coming. When we get a chance to record it, but look out for that. We'll finish talking
And
about Kill 'Em
then
All. Maybe throw in some other things too. So
a spoiler: our next episode, we're going to discuss the black box set. So
yeah,
I can't wait to open up that thing. I can't wait. I know that was delayed due to COVID, but it's
yeah.
coming. I'm hoping
Oh
next
yeah.
Friday.
Yep.
So if you don't have it, that one's going to sell out for sure. So
Yeah. Well,
go
I've
get
got
it.
mine pre-ordered, so it's on the way.
Mine's paid for, just waiting on it. So I'll catch you soon, Bill. It was nice doing this, and we got a lot more content coming.
All right, Chuck. I appreciate it, man, and thanks again. And I had a blast.
Hit the lights out.
That's right.